I'm Erin, and I am here to talk to you today about business resilience and just smart ways to keep your business running, especially as a solopreneur. You're wearing a million hats. And I'm going to get into a little bit about me. So I'm the founder of the Venture Project, where I'm working with small business owners in a consulting capacity, and I'm launching some new initiatives this year. But my background is I'm actually an engineer. I went to the University of Maryland, and I worked in engineering for about a decade for a structural steel fabricator. And I ended up launching my own jewelry brand, completely unrelated to engineering. Became a national brand, but it was a series of life events, and I think a lot of solopreneurs can relate to. You're often not where you started or thought you would be. And then I just became a big advocate for small businesses. I started, I'm part of a small business leaders network through Meta, and I've twice been invited down to Capitol Hill to speak on small business issues. And so I began advocating more for small businesses and working with just people I knew and in my network with helping them launch and grow their own business. Pinterest was extremely impactful in my business early on, back in 2013. So I've been invited to speak for them as well. But life hit me hard over COVID. Everyone, has their own COVID experience, but I was 42 and ended up being with three kids. They weren't all little, one high school, one middle school, one elementary school, and running my own business when COVID hit, and then I was diagnosed with stage 3 that then moved to stage 4 colon cancer. So my life got turned upside down, and as well as my business. And so I learned a lot about many things, but in the business capacity, a lot about building resilience and where we are often failing as small business owners, because you're not prepared for a crisis. Not that everyone's going to end up with a medical crisis, but there are so many different crises that, or challenges that come up, and we're ill prepared for. I'm 3.5 years cancer free now, so I'm doing great, and that's what really has inspired me to move into this work, working with other small business owners. I still do have the jewelry brand, and the future of that is evolving right now. So when you are the whole team, as you know, you are everything. You are sales, you are strategy, you're delivery, your operations, your IT, your support. But even if you're running a small team, as the business owner, you're wearing many, many hats. And so if something is going to disrupt you, are you prepared? And that is the focus of my work. So someone said to me they think of resilience as really being like a mindset. And I disagree. Resilience can be a mindset, but it really also is a strategy. If you think of building a business that can weather challenges that will come, you just never know what they're going to be. So the way I work with people is I try and have you visualize resilience being these 3 parts. So the foundation, the most important part is your readiness. How prepared are you? And I'm going to focus on readiness today. And then adaptability. How adaptable are you to changing market, customer needs, all of those things? And then are you able to make a good decision when it's time to pivot or evolve your business? And so the reason the first part, readiness, preparedness, matters is the goal is to eliminate stress in your life. And by lowering the risk, and also it really affects your profitability when you're constantly wasting time and money on putting out fires and crisis management. So it puts you in a position where you're really vulnerable, and everyone knows what your weak spots are. And one of the things that we will get into, I have a checklist that I'm going to give you guys that you can take home, is kind of what keeps you up at night in your own business. There are certain things, for everyone it's different, but what is it that's keeping you up at night that you're constantly worried about, you're not dealing with, because it's going to be a problem at some point. So having the foundation of preparedness is going to help you reduce the panic feeling, expensive mistakes, lost time, and making decisions from an emotional place, which, as we know, is really doesn't typically end well in any aspect of life if you're just making them purely from an emotional decision. But the goal of building this resilience is increasing your profit, because in the end, that's what your business, I mean, you're creating a business to be profitable. So the readiness part, there's 5 building blocks. So you have your financial, your digital, your operational, your owner, and your brand readiness. And that really encompasses everything in your business foundationally. But if you break it down into these 5 components, it's going to make it more manageable for you to tackle where your weak spots are. And I'm going to get into some of these examples. Okay, so your financial readiness, and depending on if you're new or you've been in business for a little while, I mean, this looks different for everyone. But do you know your break-even numbers? These are things that sometimes we just don't, as small business owners, we don't spend the time to reevaluate on a regular basis and have that monthly financial rhythm. You should know your break-even numbers and reevaluate that. And is your pricing, are you confident in your pricing? Are you clear in your pricing? And are you communicating that to your customers in a way that they not only understand your pricing, but they see the value? And then diversified income streams. So financial readiness really is, I think everyone has a good understanding of that. The need for it, I should say. Everyone knows that you need to have financial readiness, but are you really setting yourself up for success in that area? And maybe it is that you need to have someone else work with you. But these are the basic numbers, and this is a basic system to keep your stress lower and your readiness. So digital and data, these are other basics that, depending on what you're already doing in your business, this may be an area of your business that you are on top of. But digital chaos is extremely expensive. And so I'll just give you a couple examples of things that have taken down, maybe not taken down a business, but set it really far back. We think of hackings, obviously, on your website or maybe your payment processor. But social media hackings are an issue. And I think a lot of people running a small business don't think that's going to happen to them. And so I worked with someone it's been 1.5 years, where their business account, their advertising account was hacked. And someone got in and they started charging their credit card like $2,000 a day for running ads that were basically affiliate ads to like a Chinese clothing website. You know, one of these things that just happened so quickly, and they ended up losing control of their entire Facebook, Instagram accounts. So not only their ad account, their business account, their personal accounts, everything that was tied to it. And it even affected some other accounts that they were admin on. So it took reaching out to a person, their local congressperson, and took a month to even regain control of the Facebook account, the Meta account, the business account, but they never regained control of their advertising account. And it was 10 years of build up. Yeah, he just unplugged it. So the moral of that story is, if you have a team working with you, well, first of all, you need to make the difficult thing about social media hackings is obviously we're always linked into your business platform through your personal. But if you have other people on your account, do you have a process in place to immediately remove access, make sure that they're only on there if it's absolutely necessary? Not that someone's going to do something nefarious, but if they get hacked, it can bring down your entire system. So there are a lot of, in my little checklist here, we'll go through just some things that you really need to evaluate and make sure that you have digital readiness and data readiness. Sorry, now that threw me off a little bit. So the third part is your operational readiness. And this is, I think, something that is really important for solopreneurs. Making sure you have your repeated tasks documented, and especially for communication. So if you're constantly asked the same questions by customers or prospective customers, it's just a lot easier to have something in place that you can copy paste, essentially, know how you're going to respond. It just takes up time, mental bandwidth, just these and simple onboarding checklists. And Also, this is important because what do you have in place if you have to step away? If you are, if something happens and you have to step away for a week, 2 weeks, a month, several months, you may be the only person available to do the work, like if you're a graphic designer, but you may need someone to come in and help with other components of the business, communication with customers, invoicing. If you have to step away and you're only able to limit your time that you're available. So having these things documented. And the other reason it's really important is to protect yourself. If you don't have sort of your own internal policies as a solo entrepreneur, you run the risk of making emotional decisions. And another example of that is within the jewelry industry. I don't know if any of you have heard of the Sundance catalog. It was a big catalog that people aspired to be in, a lot of artisans. It was started by Robert Redford, I don't know, a long time ago. And there are some people within that industry that, they're sort of the pinnacle for an indie jewelry designer. And they were bought out 2 years ago. The Sundance catalog sold. And so they continued to supply, and they were not getting paid. So contract says 30 days, and here you are as a small solopreneur, and you don't want to cause disruption because this is a big deal. You're in the Sundance catalog, and you don't want to stop sending product. And this really bit several people, actually a lot of artists, not just jewelry artists. So they continued, but then they started asking questions, and there was delays in payments. Long story short, they have now filed for bankruptcy. They were selling all of their artisan products at a deep discount, and the artists are not getting paid. And so I know some people in the industry did it for 60 days, and then they cut their losses because they could see the direction that this was going. But one woman who's been in business, she's very well known. She's been in business a very long time, and she continued to supply because she didn't, she felt like she didn't want to lose the account, but she didn't have these strong internal processes to say no. And she didn't have because she didn't have that in place, she didn't have almost the inner confidence to demand that either payment or just to stop. And so she's out $80,000 and fighting. And, they went to bankruptcy, even though it's this huge company that, Robert Redford started. Here, she's a small business owner, out 80 grand. And as a jewelry designer, that's not just your time. That is actual supplies and materials are not cheap. So that's an example of setting up, no matter what your business is, having some internal policies, even if it's just you, that you follow and protect yourself. And you're able to communicate if someone needs to come in and help you. So the fourth part is you as the business owner. So making sure you have your own readiness and resilience. And it's hard as a solo entrepreneur. If you want to spend 20 hours a day working on your business, you will likely end up burning out. So that is just the reality. So making sure you have clear boundaries for yourself, no matter if you have a family life, you don't have a family life, whatever it is that works for you, and stick to it. Again, it's having these internal policies for yourself. And then what are your backup plans for when you're sick? And if you have, if you're burned out or you do have an illness, and how can you delegate? So to me, it's the same idea of people say you should have a will, but no one really wants to ever put together a will because you think, I'm not going to need that. But for your business, you really just have a good solid plan on how you're going to protect yourself if something happens. And it may just be that you have other types of disruptions. It doesn't have to be illness, but it certainly could be caring for someone else in your life, or you need to go travel for some sort of event that ends up taking a lot longer. So having that readiness for you as the business owner. And then your brand readiness. And these are basics that a lot of times, again, we overlook as a solo entrepreneur because we don't have all the teams. You don't have a legal team. You don't have a marketing team. But it's really important that you are consistent and consistently communicate your business to your customers, and does your language match what it is that you're actually offering? And I think another important part of this is communicating what you want to offer. There's a difference between what you want to offer, what you feel your skills and values are, versus what people want to pay you for. And that's something within the creative community that I think is often a disconnect. And a really important part to reevaluate for yourself is, I feel like several years ago there was a book out that I remember reading, and it's I can't remember the name of it exactly, but Your One Why. And so it's basically about why you go into your business, and it could be because you want to support your family or whatever it is, but you're supposed to focus on your one why. But I think there is something that's even more important, and that is, why do your customers want to buy from you? And that is more important than why you are doing your work. Personally, that is a great concept if that's what gets you up and out of bed in the morning. But at the end of the day, running a business, your goal is to be profitable, and to whatever that looks like for you. That's different for everyone. But your goal is not to be a hobby or a charity. And so the profitability part comes into, what do people actually want to pay for? And there's oftentimes a disconnect. And I think that reevaluating what's profitable, what people want to spend money on, and learning to let go of either products or services that you offer that you feel sort of emotionally or your ego is attached to, versus sometimes it's just better to let go of those and focus where your clients want to spend money. So the other two parts of my 3 pillars are adaptability and then the evolution. So adaptability, everyone knows what being adaptable means, but are you adaptable in your business? So are you making observations? Are you getting customer feedback? That is critically important. And doing these experiments and listening to your customers and asking for feedback. And that will help evaluate where you need to change in your product services, and also just reevaluate the whole direction of your business at times. So being adaptable is critical once you have that foundational readiness. And then evolution is not panicking. So I think sometimes people feel like their business has to change because something's not right, or you want to personally take it in a different direction for a variety of reasons. So being strategic in what you are, your forward-thinking goals is really important. And I think that, going through the adaptability portion first and learning where you need to change and then evolving is really important as the pinnacle of your resilience, and just having the confidence and the strength and the trust within yourself and your business and your business plan. So those are the 3 most important parts of building resilience. And you are in it for protecting your profits, to reduce the disruptions like I spoke about, and improving your decisions. And again, I know you have different businesses here, so decision making looks different in different businesses, but at the core, they're all the same. And you're making decisions on where you're putting your money, how you're communicating, and it's really important to preserve the trust with your customers. So I think we often have a growth mindset. We think we want to grow our business, but if you don't start with the foundational portion and make sure that you are profitable in the way that you can be profitable where you are now, growing can actually be more disruptive, and you're potentially lose money if you do it too quickly. So having the stability at the core is really important before you decide to evolve and grow. So these are just the three parts to it: prepared, protected, and profitable. And so the goal with the 5 parts of your readiness is not to be overwhelmed and think about everywhere where you're failing, but to take sort of one block at a time, especially as a solo entrepreneur and you are doing this all yourself. But hopefully you have a strong team of people that whether it be other community members, or maybe it's an accountant or some type of advisor in your life that can help you go through each of these components. But just take it one block at a time and one small improvement, and that's where this resilience will continue to build and compound and build the security and the profitability that you're looking for. So I have here a checklist just that you each can take, and it goes through the financial readiness, digital readiness, operational, owner, and the brand readiness. Thank you. Just keep one. So these are just some basics, but that you can, this weekend or next week, think to yourself, where are you confident? Where do you know you need work? And where have you not even started to consider these things? But at the top here, I have you ask yourself, what is your most pressing worry? And that's what we talked about early on, sort of what's keeping you up at night. And maybe you do feel like you have digital weakness in your passwords, how you're managing things. Maybe it's financial. Maybe it's you are feeling burned out. Or maybe your messaging to your customers is all over the place. So these are just, I think, some basics for each block that can help you to begin to build just more resilience in your business. And so I don't know if we can go through some questions, but a few questions. I mean, even if you're working for yourself, having a brand guide that has your voice, your tone, like what's your mission, what are your values, how do you want to communicate those parts of your brand. And yeah, putting it in a brand guide is incredibly important. But also as a solo entrepreneur, so maybe you have someone, maybe you're hiring someone to do some graphics for you, or maybe you're having someone redesign your website, or someone's writing product descriptions for you. Having that available to send out to anyone that you're contracting out is incredibly valuable, because again, it's about preserving your time and your energy as well, instead of either cleaning up a mess that an employee might unintentionally create, or just the time of working with a contractor to help create and really understand the vision that you have for your business. But sometimes I think if anyone here hasn't created that for yourself, it's a good exercise to really refine your own brand voice or mission and the values, all of the parts of it. Yeah,
the voice, because each brand has their own buzzwords.
Yes.
Specific way of speaking.
Right.
Yeah.
And things that you don't.
Yes.
So it's the do's and don'ts. It's also I think that's really important. It's a good point. And again, I know we're small solopreneurs here, but you think about other businesses that train their employees just to communicate face-to-face to customers. The old Chick-fil-A, it's my pleasure, I'm sure not everyone starts off life, or getting that job thinking that's the way they're going to speak. But having that brand consistency is really important. And that's another important part, actually, of the preparedness, like your operational systems, is how are you going to handle if you have a customer or an employee that goes rogue or, decides to say not nice things about you. I feel like we're in the day and age where people do that so easily, especially online. So do you have a plan in place? Do you have an attorney that you would just call to say, I need a cease and desist? Because when you're in a place where these things happen and you're highly emotionally charged, it's so much better to have a plan in place and to say, okay, this is terrible. I'm really upset about it, but I know I need to do X, Y, and Z. I feel so terrible for this woman who lost all this money in when you think you have reached it in the Sundance catalog, but just having, these things that you follow for yourself, because it's so easy to just, in the moment, make decisions that you look back and regret, because you're like, dang, if I had just listened to my gut, listened to my plan, things would have turned out differently. And obviously we can't predict everything, but having, more preparation and people that you trust already in place for when these issues come up. Again, as solo entrepreneurs, we often don't. That doesn't mean you have to go pay an attorney and pay an accountant right now, but it's like you can go interview people, or if it's through a referral, and just have someone that you would be able to contact when and if these things arise. Something's going to. There's always a business challenge, no matter the size of your business. And so this is like a direct-to-consumer example, but it still fits. It's what are you selling at what kind of price point based on the clients you're trying to reach. So are you communicating in a way that you are reaching. I know, Bethany, you do writing,
Yes.
right? Because we met at the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah. So, what types of clients are you trying to reach? Are you trying to reach business clients that are bigger? Are they smaller? So how are you relating to them? And that will also, so what kind of price point are they? Your services probably are available at different price points. So who are you trying to reach? Of course, we all want to be profitable, but you know your clients, and if you're speaking to them in a way that doesn't match kind of what you're offering at that price. Does that make sense a little bit? So I don't know, like if you have packages that you offer your clients. So are you communicating the value of that and also communicating that to them in a way that making that investment make sense? And that's even like using language like investment versus price, right? Depending on who you're reaching and what they connect to. Are they thinking of it as an investment in their business? Or are they thinking of it, like a sale price? So it's really identifying who your key customers are that you're trying to reach and speaking to them in a way that they want to hire you and they want to spend their money with your company. But I do think a good way to do that is to really evaluate your clients, your ideal clients, and then evaluate what other competitors are doing and the language that they're using, and even if they're not in your immediate area. So maybe there's people in other parts of the country. You probably work with people all over too, right? You don't just work with local businesses. But you can compare pricing versus how they're communicating that, because sometimes your language might be selling more than just the words, right? But you're selling saving them time, saving them energy, bringing in more clients. Like depending on if you're writing website copy or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to communicate in a way that, you're not going to use language like Christmas sale, right? I mean, but some people do that, some people in service industries might do that, but it doesn't really make sense and it turns people off. And so that's where you really need to communicate in a way. And like some brands always have a sale, and then some brands never have a sale, right? We all know those brands, and that's because they're reaching a different client that's not shopping for, with a coupon with the next, the next deal that's coming up. So really evaluating who your clients are and how you can communicate that value, I think. Yeah. Does that make a little more sense?
On that note,
yeah.
Recommendations for how to figure out your brand voice in the first place?
Oh, if you email me, I can send you to something that you can work through on that. That would be, you need to start with your clients, your ideal clients. I want to keep saying clients, your ideal clients. And what is did you have a web-based business too? I can't remember. I know, or you said engineering? Or was that the other guy next to you? I'm sorry. Marketing and branding. Okay. Yeah, so you want to start with who your clients are. But if you send me an email, and I have business cards I'll give you guys. You first is really figuring out who the clients are that you're speaking to, and then what's important to you in your business. Because like I mentioned, what people want to pay for versus what you want to offer, you have to find that sweet spot, and that's where you really can use your brand voice to communicate those things. And an example of that is when I launched my jewelry, the example not of the brand voice part, but of the what you offer versus what people want to pay for. When I launched my jewelry brand, it was, life had changed. I had 3 little kids, and I won't get into the whole long story. It's a very long story. But I started, selling jewelry. The Muse downtown carried it, or it still does, but that's how it had all started. But I tried something that someone had asked for, and it was these heart necklaces, mother-daughter heart necklace. And that's just not me. Like, I was never into girly girl hearts, but I can tell you heart necklaces have made me more money over a decade than I could have ever imagined. And I was like, so that is sort of the example to me that proves it, right? It's not what I creatively felt like I necessarily wanted to put out into the world. It's what people wanted to spend their money on. I mean, you still need to keep within your values and your work and what's important to you. But I think it's especially for solopreneurs and creative people, whether it's product or service. Maybe you want to, offer certain type of branding marketing packages, but what people really want is something a little bit different. So it's finding that crossover between your skills and what you like to do, but where that really crosses over with people, where people really want to spend their money and really see the value in it. That's the most important, because there are a lot of people that just struggle with that, I think, through many years in business, stumble along.